I think it's in my thing. I hope it's in my thing. So this is amazing, you guys. It goes up and up and up in temperature. Do you see that? And it goes up to 140 degrees because I'm always freezing. So it's so amazingly fantastic. So for those of you that are always freezing. And then Alicia's like, it's hot. I'm like, you're fine. You're from Louisiana. You're tough. All right, kids. All right. Hey, y'all. That sounded very country, didn't it? Because I'm very country-ish. All right. Welcome. Welcome. Happy. Is Mardi Gras today? I'm terrible. Is it today? Y'all nod like you know something. It's today. Happy Mardi Gras. I don't know if that's a thing. I do know that I could not go and visit my daughter in Louisiana last week. It was club chaos. So, welcome, welcome. It's Ask the Advocate. So, we're going to start with the great Bonnie. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. Oh, it's Fat Tuesday. I don't know what that means, but do you say Happy Fat Tuesday? I don't know. Do you say that? Probably not. I don't know. I'm sure I'm going to mess it up. And it's tomorrow. I'm going to say it wrong. It's tomorrow Ash Wednesday. Am I messing that up? I don't know. Does anybody know? Okay. I wish I was in Florida too. I'm going to be in Florida soon. All right. You guys ready? Okay, I'm ready. Can you read them? Am I messing it up? So my moderators say that I mess up the questions with my outfit. So hopefully this is dark. Can you read them, Bonnie? She said,
yes, I can read them.
She's like, you don't wear a pattern. We can't read it. They should give y'all a bigger font. Tomorrow is Ash Wednesday. See, I got something right. I don't know.
They should.
Yes.
Okay, so first question. Have you ever worked an advocacy case in Connecticut?
Yes, that's so funny you said that. Somebody at the training this weekend, our 2-day training, was from Connecticut. She's so nice. And we all said, does Connecticut have a capital? She's like, Hartford. We were like, easy, ma'am. We didn't know. We're from Texas. We're our own country. But yeah, I've got 3 clients right now in Connecticut. They are awesome in the great Connecticut. And isn't that where like all the famous, like David Letterman lives? Probably you live next door to David Letterman.
Okay, and how difficult is it to prove a child is not getting the correct services from a state that is not being federally watched as compared to a state that is?
I don't know any state that's being federally watched. I think that sounds good, but as somebody that files federal complaints all the time, here's what you should know. The federal government might send corrective action plans, like our little state of Texas. We had to like write a check for $267 million. And then the federal government wrote a letter back and said, you didn't finish the corrective action plan. But, you know, you have to tattle on people for them to get the eyes of the government. So if you were having services that aren't being delivered, I certainly would probably, consider doing an OCR complaint. I find that I have the most gains with them. We do lots of training on that. I do private training on that. And then we're going to do more ABA training. So thanks, you guys. Thanks for all the love.
Okay, and a student is a senior and her IEP is completely not reflective of the student today. Her last evaluation was done in 2015. Why is the school fighting me on new testing?
So the only time that I would do new testing for a senior, this was actually one of the questions this weekend, the only time I would do new testing on a senior is if any of you guys have kiddos going into the 18 to 22 program. I want to do full testing for kiddos within 1 year. As somebody who's a mediator for the family courts, I work with a lot of probate attorneys. When you have a child that's going to get guardianship, it's much easier for the court system to recognize them as a candidate for guardianship, whether it's partial, whether it's your estate, your person, or both. And it's a much easier connection to getting them services, whether it's SSI or, any other agency services. So all of my kiddos that are going into the 1821 program, or they're going to need guardianship, I have all their testing redone their last year of school. So somebody just said, what do you think of Lexia? Ooh, Lord, can we talk about Lexia? So Lexia is great. It's not instruction. It's not dyslexia instruction. It's a support. Unfortunately, there's too many people sticking our little cherubs in front of a computer and saying, look, I'm teaching them. You're not teaching them. You're sticking them in front of a computer. And for kids with disabilities, that's not always a good setup.
Okay, and at the high school level, is it realistic for all of the students' teachers to attend the IEP meeting?
No, I would never ask for ever an IEP meeting for all the teachers to attend. The teachers need to be teaching. And so for our kiddos, I'm going to ask for the most important general ed teacher, and obviously the special ed teacher that has the most impact and works with them the most. And if it's the person that is delivering the SDI, the specially designed instruction, I certainly want that special ed teacher in the meeting.
Does there have to be an MDR if a child has a 504 before a decision about suspension?
So, yes, you can have an MDR for a 504 or special education. If we're going to see is the action, this behavior, was it directly linked, two things, four things we have to answer, right? Was it linked to his disability? Was it not linked to his disability? Was it because we didn't implement the IEP, or we did implement the IEP? But you want to make sure that when you go into that MDR meeting that you're fully prepared, because that's the only meeting that you're going to get. And then you're going to, if there is still some consequence for that action, even if it's tied to their disability, you want to make sure that in that setting, whatever that setting is, that they're still delivered their specially designed instruction and all of their IEP.
Okay, and why would a school say that their RTI committee needs to review the request for an initial evaluation?
Because they're goofy. They've been stricken with a severe case of goofy, and they were not vaccinated. And so it's rampant. It spreads everywhere. RTI has nothing to do with the request for special education. There's this little letter, January 11th, 2011, from the OSEP, Office of Special Education Programs, to all the state agencies. And it says, hey guys, just as a reminder, MTSS, RTI, cartwheeling, anything else is not in replacement of or to delay requests for special education testing. So don't fall for that. That's not a thing. Additionally, I don't need to go meet with your committee. Your committee is either going to grant the request for my parents, or you're going to deny that. And should you choose to deny that, then put that denial in a PW and a prior written notice. And yes, that is when the pool noodle is coming in. Thank you. Always carry a pool noodle with you. You'll never know when you need to whack somebody with it.
Now that school has been in session over 100 days, would it be a good time to call a review ARD if you're not seeing progress?
It's a good time to call a review IEP meeting if you have concerns, right? It's not, and I love that you guys wait a long time. Your kids are being penalized if you're waiting. If there's a need, we call a meeting.
Okay, should a child be at the IEP meeting?
So if you were my client, the answer would be, say it with me, no, because they're a child. I've never seen a great outcome from a bunch of adults who sometimes don't even get along well with each other, who sometimes don't know how to Let's start that over with feeling. Okay, Bonnie, ask me the question again, and I'll pretend like I've had a whole pot of coffee.
Should a child be at the IEP meeting?
Should a child be at the IEP meeting? No. I'll stand at that. They're children. Should a child be at the IEP meeting? No. You're making adult decisions. You're signing an agreement about federal requirements. You need a child there. Why? Because they have to learn to advocate for themselves. Really? Your cerebellum is not even fully grown in until you're 22. Whatever data that I need from the child, I'm going to get from the child in a safe area that the child can communicate and talk. But when I see kids come into meetings, it's very contrived. It's very uncomfortable. I don't see any meeting. I don't know that children have had any training in the IEP process, but certainly they should be a part of a very robust transition interview. The parent should be part of a very robust transition interview, and that we've captured their preferences and their choices, and that we write a set of coordinated activities to help them have post-secondary success.
How can I reinstate and get eligibilities for SLDs added back into an IEP if a parent previously agreed to the district discontinuing those eligibilities?
So when you say, how can I do that if the parent, so are you the parent or are you the teacher?
Prior to, like, this is another advocate prior to.
Oh, so if the testing is current, right, and how long is testing current? Say with me, 3 years. And we agree as a committee that she meets his eligibilities, that's fine. Remember, in the federal law, and it's a really good book, you guys ought to get it, the federal law. It says in 300.111D, 300.111D, which I think stands for duh, it says the child doesn't even have to be listed by their eligibility as long as we know as a committee and agree this student is in need of specially designed instruction, special education, and related services. So if for some reason they won't do that, then ask for another evaluation.
And lots of people asking, how do they find an advocate?
So I would go to your state and I would reach out to legal at your state and I would say, do you have a list of advocates? Do you have a list of attorneys? They will probably provide that to you. It doesn't mean that they work for the state. I'm on our state's list. It just means that we work, we've put our name on the list and we haven't done anything terrible, I guess. But they're not endorsing them. But it's a good way to get a starting place. Additionally, you can go to COPA, Coalition of Parent, Attorney, and Advocates. But the best place would just be reach out to us, Karen, did I say Karen? Admin at Special Education Academy, and we have a team of affiliates that are special education advocates we've personally trained.
Okay, and what do you do about calls from the principal about a student's behavior tantrums?
A call from the who?
Calls from the principal about behavior tantrums.
So the call from the principal is what? Do you need me to help you develop a behavior intervention plan? Are you unable to educate him? So the school has the training to either know how to educate your child emotionally, behaviorally, intellectually, functionally, communicative, all of those things. If they're not able to, then, I would email the school and say, if you're not able to give him an educational product, then we will have to look at out-of-district placement.
Is there any law against putting pre-K children or pre-K child in restraint at meals without an IEP?
Oh my gosh. What? I can't even, I don't, but we don't restrain children to eat. We don't restrain children for them to eat. If they have feeding needs, then we can do a dysphagia evaluation, but, ooh, that makes me, What is the appropriate response to that question?
Okay, and is a late start a support that could be put in place in a child's IEP due to a chronic medical issue?
So I have kiddos that have sleep apnea. I have kiddos that have just a lot of emotionality. It's tough for them to get to school. We can indicate that. It doesn't, absolve them of their responsibilities to go the instructional day. In our state, we just passed, I think, 2 legislative sessions ago about seat time. But there are kids that struggle to get up in the morning and get to school.
Can long-term subs and resource classes deliver SPED minutes?
No. If you're not a special education teacher who has knowledge of the student, their disability, their IEP, and their unique circumstances, you cannot deliver special education. I love subs. I love paras. I love aides. I love TAs. I love general education teachers, but only and solely can a special education teacher deliver special education, and that was reiterated in October 2022 in a letter from OSEP.
How can you get your child moved from inclusion to a resource or self-contained classroom?
So the data drives where we educate the student. And so if they're in a setting where they're not having meaningful benefit, then you have to go back and ask the committee where is a more appropriate place to teach them. Today I was in a meeting and somebody was trying to be manipulative with their words, and they're like, so you want her to be in a more restrictive setting? I said, so the law says LRE, which is actually the law. It's actually, level of non-participation, right? But we're supposed to find the most appropriate place to educate the student. Sometimes that's gen ed, sometimes that's in-class support with co-teach, sometimes that's modified general ed, sometimes it's resource, sometimes it's self-contained. But I hate when we tee it up to parents like, you want to do that? I can take the same data and make it sound good, and I can make it sound awful. I wish we did a better job when we talk to parents of talking about special education as it being a good thing and not something awful.
Okay, and what do you do when they say your son has not received special education for months and he has an IEP?
So I would calculate the minutes that were not delivered in special education times, and I would calculate the minutes that were not delivered by his instructional or related service providers. And I would get with somebody that can make decisions, and I would ask for a compensatory package. And remember, compensatory time is not replacement minutes, right? So for number's sake, let's say that he missed 10 hours. Well, you giving me 10 hours back does not compensate. Remember, compensatory time is to compensate the student to return them where they would have been had the IDEA violation not occurred. So for my clients, I usually ask for time and a half. Or as somebody fancy the other day said, 1.5, whichever's easier. I think time and a half makes more sense to those of us who are simple.
Do you recommend any study materials for an aspiring special education teacher?
So, you can't go wrong with Pete Wright's books, Special Education Law, and then Emotions to Advocacy. There's a lot of emotions in special ed. A lot. I think a good advocate is the one that doesn't have the emotions because they're not teaching the child and they're not the parent of the child or guardian. The great thing about a good advocate is that they're on the outside. But yeah, those two books you can't go wrong with however you sit at the IEP table. Pete Wright is a gangsta. Or as the kids say, he's the GOAT. I still don't know what that stands for, but I think it's something good.
So along those lines, Mr. I'm Cody Graves says you are the best of all time, KNC.
Oh, hi, Cody.
Is it possible to get an IEP for a child with a diagnosed APD and he only has a 504? He did not qualify.
So APD, auditory processing disorder, is not a federal eligibility, although it's very important to know if a student has that disorder, and then certainly make adjustments. I had a kiddo today that I think that he might have an auditory processing disorder. I recommend that they go to their ENT because even from that data, we can find places where, if Mandy's teaching the class, there's a better place for her to stand, or if Sarah's doing speech therapy, there's a better place to get, successes. So that's really good.
Okay, my 8-year-old already has an IEP for reading, but needs math in it. 3rd grade math is all word problems. How would they ask for that help?
So they need help in math, but they don't have math goals? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Yeah. So under Andrew F., it says that we provide a student an IEP goal when there's an identified need in the present levels. PLAAFP, present levels of academic achievement and functional performance. They don't necessarily have to have that eligibility to get that goal. But certainly you want to look at the need. I'm going to ask the committee how far is his or her math from the normed range. Look at those BOI, MOI, and EOI, beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of year district test, although I can't stand state testing. I am a fan of district testing. I think they're close enough points that give us some really good data about what the student does independently.
Okay, so OHI and ED qualification, but the school is saying there's no adverse educational impact. Now what? Can you explain what educational need is?
Sure. And so if they met eligibility, then there's an educational need. So an educational need means that this shows up at school and that's something that we teach, right? So whether it's language, social skills, getting dressed, staying dressed, the way you eat, academics, behavior, all of those are an educational need. So in this assessment, did we identify an educational need? organization, attending, sustaining. There's a gazillion things that little humans do at school that will impact them for gainful employment, independent living, and further education. That is the federal threshold that we're always going towards. Gainful employment, independent living, and further education. So I'm going to say in a meeting, oh, that doesn't really bother me that Hope is under the table during writer's workshop. Can she be under the table when she's an adult and she works for, NBC? Well, that's probably not a good example. She probably could be, right? Can she be under the table and work, as a doctor? No. So any of these things that are not in the normed range, we can write IEP goals around that. That wasn't a good example, was it? Because Hope probably will be working for NBC. Should we write her like, action? We should probably do a lot more of this. Cut. Right. She's amazing.
And people want to know, when are the pool noodles coming in?
When are the pool noodles coming in? And really, we need to make sure that we have pool noodles that match everybody's undertones. We'll have a warm palette, we'll have a pink palette, and then we'll have the silver gold palette. So you choose. They will come in small, medium, and large, and you're kidding. That will be the biggest size. Write that down, Bonnie. That's really good. Small, medium, large, and you're kidding.
Alicia's not here, so maybe she ordered them. We'll ask.
They're probably on back order, like my direct specially designed instructions.
We are considering moving. What questions should we ask schools or districts about their programs?
You shouldn't. Why would you ask them that? So when you say you're considering moving, are you considering moving to, where are you considering moving to? Because we will tell you to either stay or go.
My child has missed 915 IEP minutes so far. How do I request compensatory minutes?
So I would directly reach out to the special education director and say, I would like to set up a Zoom to talk about the district's offer of a compensatory package. Go straight to the person that can do two things: make decisions and release funds. Make decisions and release funds. Often you're talking to people that can't do either one of those things. Or you could just call Hope. She'll sort it all out.
What is the best advice you can give when a child is transitioning from elementary to middle school?
It's one day you'll go, oh, that's what I was worried about. The best advice you can give is that when your kiddo gets to middle school, is that you show up with a thing called a Zach Pack. And a Zach Pack is a 4x10 picture of your kiddo, and then a sheet saying, this is how amazing it is. This is how we'll try to get one over on you. This is my cell number. Do you want dark or milk chocolate? How may I serve you? We look forward to for him having a great year. This is his IEP in case you don't already have a copy. Here are his goals and his accommodations, and we look forward to a great year. I'll see you at the pep rally. Something like that.
Okay, what do you do if a parent asks in writing for special education evaluation, but the school says they need 12 weeks of data?
I would say what I do love as a professional comic, I do love other comedians, but what you just said is not funny. So when a parent requests special education testing, the school district has 15 days. 15 days to respond to that request. That's it. 12, how many weeks? Like, are they going to have a baby? What is that?
12 weeks.
12 weeks. I just feel like, what is that? A third. We'll just waste a third of the school year while we're over here with the condition called pondering. I am allergic to pondering.
Keeping an eye on them.
Oh, we're going to keep an eye on them. Then you would always say, which eye? Which eye? Is it the eye of the tiger? Because we would like the eye of the testing. Is that wrong? I don't know. If it's wrong, I certainly don't want to be right.
And can graduation diploma requirements be changed through an IEP, specifically for foreign languages?
So the LOT requirement, the foreign language requirement, can be covered, adjusted, and handled in a number of ways. Otherwise, most of the kids wouldn't graduate high school. But a change in the foreign language requirement has nothing to do with graduation.
Okay, and I just received an invitation to my son's IEP meeting. What documents do I ask to review beforehand?
All I asked for all of them. So I'm going to a meeting and you're asking me to fully and meaningfully participate. How I can do that is with a full draft copy of the IEP. Please provide me a full draft copy of the IEP document prior to the IEP meeting, comma, knowing that this is just a draft. Without that draft copy ahead of time, it's unlikely that me or my client will be able to make an informed decision, and unfortunately, we will have to reschedule the meeting. We look forward to working together. Now, what if they don't send it to you? Then when the meeting starts, we just say, could you please send me the draft now that we're in the meeting? No, we can't do that. We just got to do that. Okay. Well, then we'll just do page by page, and once we finish each page, you can just email it to me, one page at a time. I'm not going to be able to support my client and give them recommendations if you don't allow us to look at the same thing that you're looking at. It's the weirdest thing.
Okay, and how do you become a child advocate? My son has type 1 diabetes and is the only one in his school. This school does not know how to handle type 1 diabetes.
So we certainly need more advocates, and diabetes is totally still so misunderstood. My kiddos with diabetes are on IEP. So if you would like to be trained by us, we trained all the exceptional, amazing, good-looking, fantastic, fabulous people in America and all over the globe. So we have on-demand training 2 days. We have a 2-day in-person training over spring break. And then we have a virtual, is it virtual? It's virtual, which means I'll be here and you'll be somewhere else, but we'll be together. It'll be a live 2-day training in the second weekend in April. So we would love to train you on how to be a special education advocate. And then you can always join the academy. We meet every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Okay, one more from me, and then I will turn it over to Sarah. So do state laws trump the federal law? Montana says that they have to have a discrepancy between tests in order to qualify.
So no state is allowed to reduce the benefit of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. However, states are allowed to have their own language. So that's certainly something that I would say when I'm in the meeting. I'm not sure why you're choosing to reduce the benefit of IDEA. And I would deep dive into see if that really is what the statute says. I would get that language from somebody. So before somebody just tells me it says that, I'm like, great, could you send me a link to that statute? Because usually that's not what the statute says at all. It's one of the options. It's not, you're not tied by that.
And I think Alicia is here partying in the chat saying happy Mardi Gras, boss. So she is here.
Hi, Alicia. Happy Legoland Day. I hope they had salt and pepper shakers and you obtained a pair for me. If not, when you're in Olive Garden tonight, we love you too.
Can the school end an IEP without a meeting or without the parents?
Can they end an IEP meeting?
No, can they end an IEP?
No, you can't have any action to add or subtract something on an IEP without the parents being notified, invited, and having the opportunity to participate. Oh, look, Alicia gave me 64 roses. That's my age. That's awesome. Somebody on the TikTok the other day said, I can tell that you're 70 years old by your makeup. I'm like, sir, it's 76. Get it together.
How long does the school have to provide a special ed teacher for homebound students?
How long do they have to provide it? Or how long?
Does the school have to provide it? It's not super clear.
So I have kiddos that will be homebound for their entire educational career based on the acuity of their disability. I have a child that's terminal. He is currently going to be homebound without anything changing. Once we've decided that a student needs homebound, which could be Gen Ed 504 or special ed, then they should work quickly to provide that instruction, I would say within 5 days.
Okay. Do you think kids should know their accommodations?
No. I think that we tell kids their accommodations because we make children go and ask for them. And why we have kids telling adults what their duties and responsibilities are under the federal government is bizarre to me. We should make kids feel like their non-disabled peers as much. and not pressuring them when they have a disability to remind the adults of their accommodations. Is it wrong for kids to know their accommodations? No, but when I see people make sure that the kid knows the accommodation, then you have children asking adults to do their job. That doesn't ever go well.
My son has an IEP. I have an IEP meeting tomorrow to talk about stepping down to a 504. Can you talk about what a 504 is?
I don't know why you would step down to a 504. That really, I do not know, love, why you would step down to a 504. I rarely see any value at all in a 504. There's no educational product. We're not tracking anything. The school receives zero funds for not violating your civil rights. And they can have a 504 meeting without your notification, before, during, or after, and call down your minor child to be in that meeting to make decisions. So I'm not the one to ask what you would want to step down to a 504. I'm all about stepping up.
My son's school says that he would have to be in a wheelchair or unable to walk to qualify for physical therapy. Is that true?
You know, I have thoughts that come to my brain, and thank goodness I keep most of them under my hairdo. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? There are kids that have had surgeries that need physical therapy. No. When it sounds like you made it up, you did. So if you want to know what qualifies for physical therapy, look it up. There's a requirement, a standard for any related service or instructional service in your state. You could just email compliance in your state and say, this banana head, which is part of the federal law, said that I would have to be this or this to get PT. Can you tell me where that is in the code? That's not in the code.
So the question about homebound and IEP, she clarified. She said, sorry, she is homebound, but no teacher is hired. It's been 3 weeks.
Okay. So then you're going to owe me those minutes in compensatory time. Because you're denying her a free, appropriate public education. And I would email the school and say, how much longer will you be denying my child a free, appropriate public education?
What are some things I could say when I'm trying to get ESY services because of the educational deficit?
Sure. So what you could say is not the first thing they're going to say, oh, we don't have any documentation where he's regressed on IEP goals with a profound amount of time to recoup them. And I would say, absolutely, I understand that. My concern is the second prong, which is concern for loss of critical skills over the gap in the summer. I always lead with that. Concern for loss of critical skills over the gap.
My son had a 504 for ADHD, and I'm not sure if I should ask for an IEP. How would I decide?
Do you want somebody to teach him strategies to self-manage his ADHD for a lifetime? Do you want somebody to teach them strategies to self-manage their disability? That's the only thing we do in special education. We teach a child strategies to self-manage their disability. And that only happens under an IEP. Well, I'm sorry. That only has the opportunity to happen under an IEP.
My son has absent seizures, and the school said he doesn't qualify for an IEP because he has A's and B's.
Okay, so grades have nothing to do with whether or not you qualify for an IEP. You could have all A's and need an IEP. You could have all F's and not need an IEP. So if they told you no, whatever action they choose to do or choose not to do, they have to provide that to you in a prior written notice. A prior written notice has 7 components under IDEA. We do a training on that. But I would just say, silly, grades are not my concern. This is my concern. And the other thing is, I don't believe any of your grades. I love you all. I don't believe any of your grades. When I went to school, if we got a C, you know what they put in the book? A C. I know. Did we retest? No, I didn't know how to spell retest. And so there's such a demand on teachers and paraprofessionals to get every kid to pass. All the data is skewed. And on top of that, can I add something on top of that? Almost every special ed paperwork that I get right now, we're reading everything to everybody. We're reading to them, reading to them, reading to them, reading to them. And then we just say, he's doing great in reading. That's because you were reading to him. He is doing super. Right? So, yeah. So there's that.
So there have been several questions about service dogs in schools for students. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So there's two kinds, right? So there's a guide dog, and that's for a student that has a visual impairment or is deafblind. And then there are service animals that assist an individual with a disability based on a myriad of needs, right? I have a kiddo that I serve that has dysautonomia. I have several kiddos with that, and she had a service dog because it would let her know before she had an onset of that. It's covered under the Americans with Disabilities Act. So the Americans with Disabilities Act covers Americans from womb to tomb. So if you're on the planet and you're American, you have all the benefits of ADA, Americans with Disability Act.
Can they include bus behaviors on his FBA and IEP? They want our son to wear a harness for his behaviors.
So you wear a harness for his safety. We don't wear a harness for behavior. You wear a harness for safety. So if his behaviors impact his safety, then certainly we would do that. We don't put anything in the IEP that we're not going to address. So if there is training that needs to happen on the bus or another para, we could certainly do that.
There's a lot of people saying they love your work and they appreciate your time answering all these questions.
I'm happy to answer questions.
My daughter's sped class only has a certified teacher for less than half the day. Is this legal?
Say it with me. No. No. Let me tell you what, my friend. There's always been a shortage in special education. Not that I don't have compassion for the teacher shortage in general education, but the most marginalized population in school continues to be marginalized. So, love people. I understand where people are or aren't, but for my children that I serve, we're going to provide them an IEP. If you don't provide them an IEP for whatever reason, right, you're going to have to repay and replace that with a compensatory package. Oh my gosh, I have to answer this. What are your thoughts on a whole school virtual snow day? I would say the snow messed up my virtual cord. So I won't be virtualing because the snow, it got iced over in my virtual thing. That is bologna sauce. That is bologna sauce, which is a legal term for sauce that tastes terrible.
So there's lots of questions about how to get their child an IEP. I mean, people are listing different.
You get an IEP because you've had testing, right? So we have tons of trainings on this on Special Education Academy. If you would like to join Special Education Academy, we would like for you to join us, right? You get an IEP because you have an educational need. That has to be done after special education testing, right? So Child Find says that we identify, locate, and evaluate children with suspected disabilities who are in need of special education and or related services. Not proven. And so if you suspect that your child has a disability, if your child's not in the norm range in any of the academic areas, in his behaviors, in his emotions, in his responses, in the way he communicates, the way he gets dressed, the way he doesn't get dressed, the way he ambulates, the way he eats, any of that might be a reason for special education testing and related services. What you won't get is an IEP if you don't ask for the testing. It's very rare, if ever, a school is going to come to you and recommend you signed paperwork for special education testing. My experience with all of you wonderful teachers and school-based members, which are over 3/4 of the people at any of our trainings, is that they actually are hushed when they want to recommend testing to students. And it's unfortunate. It's not everywhere, but it's true, and it's unfortunate.
Is there a legal limit on how long a child on an IEP can be on a bus? My son is almost on 4 hours round trip.
So there is not. So I have kids that are at out-of-district placement. They weren't able to have an educational benefit in their district, and so they are bused. And some of them, because they're very remote in Texas, spend over 4 hours a day on the bus, because where we decided was the most appropriate out-of-district placement, where they might have access to psychiatric services, medicines, and physicians, is just very far. So unfortunately, there isn't a limit on that.
Lots of questions around grades. Can an evaluation be denied based on grades? Good grades.
Mm-hmm. Well, that wouldn't complete the components of the prior written notice. So there are specific components that must go in the prior written notice. Just saying grades does not meet that threshold. And if you're going to deny me testing for initial testing, then I'm going to request an IE for initial testing. They like that. They really... I am drinking, somebody wants to know what I'm drinking. I am drinking Focus. That's what I'm drinking in water. It used to be Mountain Dew, but at my age, I have to be a little healthier. Thank you, Truck Tiger.
How can I get certified as an advocate in Pennsylvania?
So advocates aren't certified. So I could say at the end of my training that you're certified. We give certificates, but there's no such thing as a certified advocate. And what I mean by that is there are no statutory, state, or federal requirements for advocates. So there's lots of wonderful entities that have advocate training. Obviously, Pete Wright has some amazing training. COPA has training. We have amazing training. But nobody's certified. But you will be glorified and bona fide and superfied. But you'll just be an amazing advocate that serves kids with disabilities. I do know some advocates that are certified. I don't want to say, I can't tell. But go and get all the training that benefits you to serve those kiddos with disabilities.
Please explain LRE in layman's terms. If a student pushed into a general ed class for math and disrupts and cusses.
So LRE in layman's terms is where is the most appropriate place for this student in this content area to make gains on his IEP. That's it. And that's class by class and situation by situation. And so in the LRE, which is called extent of non-participation in the law, what is the extent of non-participation with their non-disabled peers, right? If I have a child who is, the behaviors or the characteristics of a disability impact his learning or somebody else in the room's learning, then we have to take that into consideration. Because we're always looking for two things, right? Meaningful benefit and harmful effect, and those are both in place.
Teaching in a new district. Concerned they aren't giving my students their least restrictive environment. Where should I go?
So first of all, you'd have to know what the continuum of services are. And it's rare that schools tell you the entire continuum of services for kids in special education. If you don't know what the continuum of services are, it's going to be hard for you to ask for what they are. Somebody said I was one of the coolest people on TikTok. Cool. That's what people my age say. Does that mean that I'm a cool goat? Can goats be cool? I don't know. Yes, we love you guys. The next training is, when's the next training, kids? Is it the 16th and 17th? Can somebody check, Sarah? It's like a Friday, Saturday of the spring break. I think it's March 16th and 17th. Come on. And then we have the virtual in April. Will you find those dates for me, Sarah?
I will. Bonnie, do you want to take over questions?
Okay, so, they're saying you definitely are the goat and beautiful too.
Thank you.
You are the goat. Can anyone beyond a teacher or admin violate FERPA rights? For example, a lawyer.
Can a lawyer violate FERPA rights? Is that what you mean?
Okay. Yes.
So the person that denies you access to your records is part of the violating entity. Is that the admin? Is that, I mean, I don't know who that is, but if there's somebody denying me access to those records, I guess they're part of the problem. So yes.
Okay, how do you ask for a reduction of homework due to anxiety? He is diagnosed with that.
Sure, so I would say there's no data, because you guys liked that today when I posted that. There's no data anywhere that shows me that sending home homework to little humans that aren't adults all day long helps him. Let me ask you this. Does anybody know how many sides there are to a rumba, or what is the sum of an obtuse triangle? Did anybody ask you that today? No. Does anybody know if we won the Alamo? I feel like we did. What we do is we teach kids to memorize. I was very high academically in school. I remember, you know what I remember? Nothing. I remember nothing. But you know what did happen in school? I would like to present this to you all. Are you ready? This is how amazing I am. All right, everybody ready? Get ready to screenshot this. Get ready to screenshot this because it's just going to be quick. Ready? I am in here. Go ahead. Take your time and screenshot that. Who's who among American high school students, 83, 84. That's what a big deal I am. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about the stuff that we teach in school. Here's an idea. Let's educate them instead of just graduating them. So I don't know about homework. I know that homework forces kids to memorize stuff. I memorized a million things. Allegedly, I was in calculus in high school and did well. I literally struggled to add 60 plus 35. So the only math that I know is tall, grande, and venti, which is really the only math that you need to know. We make kids learn all of this stuff. I have no idea why. But you will not find me robust data that says making children go home and work some more after they worked all day has any long-term meaningful benefit. Oh, you guys wanted to see that again? I'll be selling copies of these. These will come with a free pool noodle. Were you not sent the little letter that for $35 you could be in who's who of American high schools? And next week I will pull up my picture because I think that we all want to see my picture in here. Do you guys say yes in the comments if you want to see my picture? I had not mastered the blowout at that time. And yes, my hair was permed and red. So it was
that training is March 17th and 18th in Houston.
March 17th and 18th is the next in-person training. And then April 15th and 16th is the virtual. I just need to know, was anybody else in who's who of American high schools? Please tell me that I'm not the only person that was wamboozled into mailing in my check.
Can a one-to-one para be in a classroom and serve more than one student? So, like, can they double dip? Like, be one-to-one for more than one kid? I know, it sounds strange, but it's a question.
So, one-to-one para is a one-to-one. So, you can have pairs that are 1 to 3, that are 1 to 4. But if you have a one-to-one, one person is serving that student's needs. Now, it doesn't have to be the same para all day long, but it means they have a one-to-one para all day, i.e. the one-to-one part. Oh, look, somebody else was in who's who. That makes me very happy.
So what do you do if your kindergarten child who is autistic has been left alone on the playground for 33 minutes?
You probably don't want to know what I would do. But you lovely people would get on the phone with the superintendent immediately, if not sooner. Mm-hmm. Any child left without an adult would be a massive problem with me. And I probably would call Child Protective Services. For sure.
And
you know, I'm just going to hijack this. You know who's better to contact than the superintendent? Don't tell anybody. But who's better to contact is their assistant. don't even ask for the superintendent. You just call and you ask for the assistant directly and you speak with them. I get a lot more traction that way.
Perfect. So an elementary student needs resource but was put into a co-teach as resource is not offered. Is that okay?
It's a legal requirement in the United States of America to have resource at every single campus. You have been lied to. And that dog just barked in agreement. So that's the way you know it's the federal law. When a dog barks, when you say something, that's the truth.
I couldn't mute him fast enough.
He's like me. Who knows what's gonna come popping out?
Where can they sign up for the virtual training?
Yeah, it's all on specialeducationacademy.com.
Okay. And someone else was in the who's who, so
good. It's not just me. Can y'all all bring your who's who next week? Can everybody just make a who's who TikTok? We can all tag each other.
Someone said they were in the college and university version of that book. I didn't know
that's probably because you went to college. I didn't stay long enough to get that letter. My letters usually said, "Thanks for coming." It didn't work out. Those are what but we had a good summer. The summer of '84 was a lot of fun in Austin, Texas, on 6th Street. That's what they tell me.
Along the lines of that resource question, another one says, what if the school only provides general ed with push-in for LRE? There is no resource or smaller classes.
That's a violation of federal code. So LRE and extent of non-participation in the federal law actually lists general ed, support, and resource and self-contained as settings. So that's a problem for me, and that would violate one of the 8 pillars of IDEA.
Can you opt students out of standardized testing?
I would love to tell you could, but I would be, my pants would be on fire. No. Of all the things that you're going to spend your bandwidth doing, fighting that, I don't think is a good one. But if you want to fight that, you can. It is a monster, awful moneymaker that's probably never going away.
Several people saying my district removed resource too. So not good.
They didn't really remove resource. They just told you that. So I have a lot of kids that are in junior high, and they're the only child receiving resource. I can't save the whole world in every campus, but I'm trying to, one kid at a time. So that is a full-blown lie.
Hey, my son has ADHD and mild Tourette's. He does struggle with reading, but has been denied SPED testing. What can she do?
So Tourette's is OHI, other health impairment. So I would say, why are you denying my son testing when he already has an identified disability, not a suspected disability? And then the federal code, that book is in our Amazon link, so go get it. It's only $40, and it'll make you holla. So you have to respond legally back to school districts if you think they're violating. So I would respond legally in saying, I'm not sure why you denied him testing when Child Find says there only needs to be a suspected disability and he has an identified one. When are you going to rectify that?
Okay, and would your trainings, your online special ed trainings apply to North Carolina?
Is North Carolina still in the United States? Because sometimes these states just leave. They just get up and they go. But yes, it applies to all states. From who did we have in the training the other day? Somebody from the Kodiak Islands. Who knew there were islands in Alaska? Probably all of you. All of you. To Massachusetts. We had several rowdy people from Missouri. We have to put them all in a group because they're out of control.
Can we request a para by name and an IEP?
It wouldn't be a good idea. Nope. And if you were my client, I wouldn't want that either. I would say, Hope is a great para because she does this. I think that you're going to get a lot more gains on Sally's IEP if Hope is her para, but we certainly understand that's not our decision. So there's a certain way to tee it up, but then you don't want the same person for too long because you might create learn dependency. And then I have like 1.2 seconds to do, to change into my beaded ball gown for tonight. So the Great Academy starts in a few minutes, but I will take 2 more questions. Oh, somebody said a school's refusing testing because they say they want the child on medication first. What? Yeah. You're not going to affect my child's liver and not do testing. That's probably what I would say in an email. Yes, we love you guys. Sorry. Okay, 2 questions. Sarah 1, Bonnie 1. And none from that dog, Bonnie. Go ahead, Sarah.
Can my son receive a 504 after returning to public school after being homeschooled?
So a 504, the only parameters are that you have an identified disability and you're in need of accommodations, whether you've been there or not been there. No, you do not have to do the MTSS. There's no MTSS process. That's a scam. If a child has Tourette's, you have the OHI form filled out, and I can talk to you all day long about kiddos with Tourette's. I represented a family all the way through due process that has Tourette's. It's a lifetime disability that's debilitating, and we have to do specially designed instruction as soon as possible.
Okay, and can you talk a little more about the training? What does it entail?
Sure. So day 1 of the training is how to advocate for somebody. So whether you're the diagnostician, the assistant principal, the parent, or you're going to advocate for somebody that you know. And then day 2 is how to be advocate for a living and to grow your clientele. But they're both, you're going to benefit from every minute of it, both days. The training is absolutely guaranteed because it's the best of the best. I have people that, have been in schools for 1,000 million years. And we just don't train teachers. We don't train teachers. We don't train principals, and we certainly don't train paraprofessionals on special education and their duties and responsibilities.
Okay, last one for real. It says, my son is eligible for ESY, but the SPED teacher states it's only based on his goals. How does she get around that?
So she said he doesn't qualify for ESY, or he does?
He does, but the SPED teacher states it's only based on his goals.
So ESY is based on need. ESY is based on need. And then for that need, we're going to work on one of the goals or many of the goals that he's been working on this last year. People, we just make stuff up, don't we? All right, love you guys. I will see you next week at the same, people say at the same bat time? Somebody said, do I think MTSS is a scam? I don't think it's a scam. I think MTSS or RTI is a tool that general ed teachers can use for a small period of time to see if they can mitigate what's going on with that kiddo. Love you guys, and we'll see you in the next training. Remember, we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody.